Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Amos, and welcome back to Dividend Compounders with Cheese. Yes, this is the face that is behind this YouTube channel. And today we're going to be doing something a little different. This is the highly anticipated life and investing story video. I promised you guys once we hit 5,000 subscribers that I would be making this video because I think my story is a little wild, and here we are. I'm a man of my words. We're at 6,000 subscribers and some change, so it's going to be a little different. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if anyone is going to be interested in watching this, but I'm going to put it out there and see what happens. Hope you enjoy. And before we begin, I just wanted to put this disclaimer out there that I have notes on my screen. That way, once I start talking and disclosing what happens in my life, I don't lose my train of thought. But also, it's something that I can reference. That way, if I ramble or go way too off what we're talking about, I can always go back and look at, oh, we should be talking about apples. Why am I talking about nipples? So if you're okay with that, then strap yourself in. This is going to be quite the journey and a story. So let's talk about the beginning. So if you can't tell by my accent, I was born in the US. I am an American. I was born in Virginia, in a suburb right outside of Washington, D.C., but I was also raised in Los Angeles. And I was born into an immigrant family. And not the typical doctor or engineer background, right? Talking about janitors. My mom and my dad, they were both janitors. So I didn't have the best cards dealt to me. However, being born in America, I feel like I won the lottery in one sense. But on the other hand, the poverty and just the lack of material possessions as a child, it sucked. In fact, we didn't even have a TV growing up. And so I spent almost all of my time, I grew up in the early 90s, spent a lot of my time outdoors playing with other kids, and whenever I went to my friends' houses and I noticed that they had like 2 or 3 TVs, low-key I was envious. But I never really realized that we were poor. So I think my parents did a really good job on hiding the fact that we were poor. I never felt like we were insufficient, even though we didn't always have something to eat every night, which is kind of crazy looking back because I remember we didn't even have furniture or mattresses, but I feel like when you're 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years old, your household, your surrounding is your sense of what is normal. So if you grow up in a chaotic environment that is toxic, or one of your parents is a narcissist, like you grow up understanding like that's ordinary and that's normal. It's not until you get older and you move away that you realize like, damn, we were actually dirt poor. Case in point, I hate saying that phrase. I'm trying to train myself not to say it too much, but I remember I didn't even have a bed when I was a child, and one time we were walking by the dumpsters in the apartment complex, and somebody threw out this mattress, had stains all over it. It was nasty. And I remember my mom and I, we were so happy. We took that bed home, we cleaned it up, and we slept on it together, right? All of us. It was the little things like that, the joys, and I guess it was a very humble beginning. But looking back, I'm like, dude, that's disgusting. Like, how did we not introduce bed bugs into our home? To find a bed, it was straight up in the dumpster. You know, one of those industrial-sized trash cans that people just throw all of your trash into? Yes, it was in there. But I guess to finally get a bed when I was like, how old was I at that time? Maybe like 6 or 7? I felt like it was the biggest blessing in the world. Right? So I'm saying all of this so you can understand that as a child, times were tough. So is it any surprise that the financial hardships eventually led to my parents getting a divorce? I mean, imagine how many arguments that I endured. Like listening as a kid, I would always cry and be like, why are they fighting so much? And you don't understand it at the time. But now that I'm in my mid-30s, it makes a ton of sense, right? When money is not abundant in your life, it can be the source of almost all stress, conflicts, anger, anxiety, depression. Yeah, I quickly realized like money isn't everything. And there's people that say stuff like, oh, money can't buy you happiness. But I truly understand the meaning of if you don't have money, it can literally be the source of all pain and misery. So that's kind of like what my childhood was like. So eventually they got divorced, and I was raised by one parent, which was my mom, who if you think about it, two janitors, okay, that money pool was small, but we were able to get by. But now being raised by one single parent on that same salary and income, dude, it was horrific. It absolutely sucked. I'm not even gonna lie. But I guess now that I'm older, I realize, I alluded to it earlier, it was such a blessing because that rough beginning, that early chapter in my life, I think it developed this very desperate need to succeed mindset, right? All that adversity that I faced, I always told myself like, dude, I never, ever want to go through this again. I'm never going to subject my future family to this. What I had to go through, like it sucked that bad. But it also manifested itself in almost anything that I ever tried to do in my life, right? It gave me like this dog mentality, this high achievement oriented mindset where no matter what I did, I always had to be the best or first. Complacency and being lazy, that was just not a part of my vocabulary, my vernacular. Whatever I did, I had to crush. So that is a part of my DNA and why I am the way that I am. And funny enough, psychology tells us that, poverty and a trauma-filled background is either going to make you fail in life and you're going to repeat generational trauma, you're going to become a drug addict, you're also going to be, in poverty, or it's going to turn you into the most overachieving guy who just needs to succeed in whatever he does. And luckily, I went the latter half. And I'm not trying to come across as a guy that's about to just brag and, be conceited or anything, but I'm not joking, okay? So even from an early childhood, at 5 years old, I guess we took like aptitude tests to figure out our IQ and to see if we have any learning disabilities and whatnot, right? At 5 years old, I got the highest marks in like the entire school district or whatever, right? To the point where I was forced into going into the Gifted and Talented program, which in Northern Virginia, it's called the GT program. And I was even recommended to skip a grade level. However, I guess the wisdom of my parents at the time was like, I was already small. I was a tiny ass kid, man. And I guess they were fearful that, Warren Buffett, I guess they were fearful that I was going to get bullied beyond belief. So they said no. So I stayed with my peers in my grade level, but I still went through the whole Gifted and Talented pipeline. And it was an interesting experience, right? Because it taught me like other people, they had to study or work in order to learn a concept or equations or to comprehend a theory or a lesson. But for me, it just came so naturally. I never studied, never did any homework, and no matter what test or assignment was handed to me, I always got 100 out of 100. That's the kind of kid I was. And I guess as an adult, it bit me in the ass because I had no idea how to study when I went to college. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, so that's me on the academic side, right? That's the way that I was, because it went from the Gifted and Talented program, and then once I went up to like middle school, high school, I was, I guess, segued into the honors program naturally, and so that was the academic, caliber kind of a kid that I was. But I wasn't just a bookworm, right? Because I wasn't. I really was. I didn't read any of the textbooks or anything, but I still got 100 out of 100 on almost every test that I ever taken. Prior to college. But on the other side of the things, I was also super athletic. I know, that's why I had to throw that out there. I don't want to come across like I'm bragging or anything, but no matter what sport I ever participated in, in recess or PE, I crushed. I was literally the most athletic kid that existed in my little community. Whether it was football, whether it was baseball, dodgeball, handball, tennis, I crushed. And I remember one time I was enrolled into Taekwondo because apparently I had too much energy and, that discipline, hana, dul, se, and doing all the martial arts is good for a kid that has too much pent up energy. I was enrolled into it, and as a white belt, I literally was not allowed to spar against kids that were my age group or same level, right? So even as a white belt, moving on to yellow belt, I was forced to only participate in lessons and sparring with black belts. And what sucked at the time, I always thought like, dude, this is so unfair. So like, how old was I? I was like 8 years old as a yellow belt, and I was forced to train and to spar with black belts that were like 10 or 11 or 12. And even then, I was still kicking their booty holes, right? So that's and I illustrate that so you can kind of see like how athletic I was as a kid. And so naturally, I gravitated towards lacrosse. The picture that you see in the middle of your screen right now, that's lacrosse. It's like it's a sport that's really popular here in North America, especially Canada and I guess on the East Coast of the US. And that's the sport that I doubled down on. But it wasn't just the school stuff coming easy and excelling or the athletics that I was crushing. There was a third pillar to my identity and my story. And that is when I lived in California, in Los Angeles, I went to a performing arts elementary school. So the curriculum was half academic and the other half was designed in a way for us to explore the creative realms, right? Like tap dancing. I was a tap dancer at one point. I was out there doing like river dancing and stuff. It also taught us how to sing, how to act, how to do almost anything related to the arts, right? Painting, sculpting, fantastic experience. And I think at that very young age, I discovered that I absolutely loved to perform, to sing, to dance, to act. And I remember whenever there was a school play or a school dance, where we performed in front of all the parents and everything, there would be tryouts and auditions. Again, I know this sounds like a straight lie, but you have to believe me, okay? Dividend compounders with cheese. I always got the lead role. I was always the lead singer, obviously by my high-pitched voice. If you cannot tell, I'm a tenor. Tenor is like the highest pitched voice for a male. But for dancing as well, I was always the lead dancer. And I guess I found out that I was just naturally talented. A lot of potential. And I guess it's kind of sad as an adult to see how neither one of my parents saw that potential in me either, right? And I think I understand them now. I think as a teenager, I was so mad at them, like, why didn't you ever take me? Because I really wanted to audition to, whenever they had cast roll calls for like Disney shows. I remember I'd be like begging my parents to please take me. I feel like I would have crushed. And I was so mad. But I think it's that wisdom you gain once you become an adult. I think their reality of waking up day and night and I guess in the context of my mom, right? Working as a janitor, the night shift, and then also the morning shift. And she would sleep like 4 hours during lunch. Like, I don't know how she did it. That's the way she did it in order to put food on the table. Understanding her circumstance, she must have been so miserable, right? And upset. Like, how is this my life? I left South Korea to come to the US to scrub toilets for like 17, 18 hours a day. Like, this sucks. So, like, I understand their framework. But I also feel kind of, I guess, disappointed on how you couldn't see, like, yo, your kid? Dude, this kid right here could have been the next child star. So much talent, so much potential, but that's neither here nor there. I ran into this prompt and it just made me tear up. If you could time travel and meet your mom before you were born, what would you say to her? She doesn't know who you are because you are you as you are right now. Honestly, man to man, between you and me, I would warn her to stay away from my dad. Even at the expense of my own existence. Sure, great. If I can never be born, that's fine. She deserved so much better. I would warn her, do not settle for less. You deserve better. To be a product of a divorced household, it absolutely sucks. And I remember, even as a young little kid, just seeing the life being ripped away from her eyes, and it's not a pretty picture. And I think that's a valuable lesson for anyone who's listening to this right now. You gotta marry the right person. If not, you're honestly better off single. You marry the wrong person, and it could literally disrupt and ruin your life. Especially if you get married and you involve kids and you get divorced. Dude, just don't do that to the kids, man. Just don't. As I got older, I started to, see from my mom's perspective, and I forgave her, even though she didn't apologize. I understand why it was so hard growing up. As sad as it is to say, her life would have been so much better had she had never met my father. And I'm not even mad at my own dad either. He's a guy that made mistakes. We all make mistakes. I'm not judging him. And I feel like maybe he would have been happier if he met someone else too, right? I just wish fate didn't allow them to cross paths. I'm fine if I've never been born. I'm okay with that. It's just, seeing the pain in her, eyes, her heart, and her voice, even 30 years after the fact, it's a sad situation overall. And by doing a lot of journaling and reflecting on my past, I think I realized why I gravitated so hard towards like the entertainment side of the house as a child. Why I loved acting so much. Why I love singing, performing, and dancing in front of crowds. I think it's because for that moment, when there was like 200 or 500 people in front of me, for that moment, I could temporarily forget about who I was and the problems that I had back at home. And once I realized that as an adult, dude, I'm not even gonna lie to you, I cried. I was like, damn, dude, that's deep. So I guess with all of that neglect, all of that hunger, all of that pain as a kid, it went away for that 30-minute performance. And when the crowd was like applauding and clapping their hands at my talent, it was a way for me to just forget about how crappy my life is. And that's crazy. On that note, I want to give a quick shout out to Leo Elementary School in Cerritos, California. Had a fabulous memory of my time there. But anyways, does it come as a surprise to you that growing up in America, we have something called a yearbook where everyone goes to school like on a September or October and it's picture day? Essentially, they take a photo of you with like a cheesy ass background and they compile everyone's photo into one book, and then you get it at the end of the year. And sometimes there will be fun stuff in it, right? Like yearbook superlatives, which your classmates would vote on who has the best smile, who is the best athlete, the most likely to succeed, or whatever, right? Those categories. Every yearbook, I was always selected by my peers as the most likely to become famous or most likely to become a stand-up comedian or a comedian in general. So even my peers recognized like this guy's got it. So it wasn't just me living in my own delusional circle or point of view talking about all this nonsense. Like that's who I was. So even entering into my middle school and high school years, I was like, okay, there's two paths that I want to go down. I'm either going to become an entertainer, and I don't know what definition that's going to be, whether I'm going to be an actor or a singer or a dancer, something in the entertainment field, just not a stripper. I knew quite then I didn't want to do anything that was weird. I wanted to be in the normal side of Hollywood. And then the second avenue was lacrosse. Because when I tell you I was quite talented at lacrosse, I am not joking. I was quite good at lacrosse. And so as I went into high school, back in 2005, YouTube launched. right? And it was a video sharing platform where a lot of people were like, yo, what is this? This is interesting. You could watch a video of someone visiting the zoo or of someone trying on an outfit of the day or what have you. And prior to 2005, my friends and I, we used to make videos together, like silly little skits, sketches, and little acting scenes that, it's kind of funny. So as a result, I asked my friends, I was like, hey, do you guys want to start up a channel and just call it Babu Guapos? Pabu in Korean means stupid, and guapos means good looking in Spanish. So it's like stupid, good looking boys. And essentially, that's what we did. I started my first YouTube channel in 2005. And let me tell you, I was one of the big first YouTubers as like a young kid. And at the time, I was like, dude, this is crazy. Because YouTube back in the day was like the wild, wild west. You didn't know what to expect. There was no such thing as the algorithm or any concept of censorship. Whatever you wanted to put on YouTube, it basically went live and public. And I remember my first taste of, fame outside of school plays and community dances and orchestra concerts, besides like community events, like on an online platform, finding out like, whoa, I'm actually famous. But that fame only lasted for a little bit because as I progressed in high school and I started thinking about my future and everything, I didn't want, my fame to follow me into the next realm, if that makes sense. And so as I was graduating from high school, I was pretty darn upset because even though I was really good at lacrosse, eventually, like my travel team and going to all of the recruitment camps and playoff tournaments, it only yielded in me getting interest and looks from D2 and D3 programs. So schools that couldn't give me a full ride, schools that can only give me like a partial scholarship or even a walk-on preferred. And I was like, dude, that's not gonna cut it. And I don't know what happened to me, but towards the end of high school, I kept thinking like, I need to be reasonable. Becoming an entertainer is not gonna pay for the bills. And at the time, that was my belief because I didn't have an adult who believed in me. I didn't even believe in me. And at the time, like 2007, 2008, YouTube, there was no such thing as being monetized. So I was like, okay, I need to be realistic. I'm not gonna be able to progress in my lacrosse career because I'm too small. Did I tell you? That's the reason why. I was a late bloomer, meaning I didn't go through puberty until I was like 19 or 20 years old. So as I was going through the recruiting pipeline, I was like 5'7" and 110 pounds soaking wet, which sucks. Because if you're trying to play at the collegiate level, like I had all the talent in the world and the work ethic and the motivation and the game IQ of what to do, but the size aspect. Because lacrosse, you need to think of it as kind of like rugby meets hockey and a little bit of American football. It's very physical. However, I was able to use my athleticism and quickness and speed in order to avoid getting hit. But that's besides the point. This is not a video about lacrosse. So I realized my future with lacrosse, not gonna happen. And then at the time, I went through this weird phase in high school where I was like, I don't wanna do what everyone else is doing. So I didn't wanna just go to college. And I think because as a junior and a senior in high school, I was just like, I don't wanna go do what everyone else is doing. So I started looking into the military. Because mind you, if you're paying attention to the timeline, I was wrapping up high school during the Great Recession, when everybody was, losing their jobs or graduating without employment lined up, and houses, dude, I remember like half of my friends, they lost their homes, including me. We lost our house too during the Great Recession. And so I had to become really pragmatic and realistic. And the worst part about the whole looking into and applying to college aspect is I didn't know that there was such a thing as like FAFSA or, scholarships and merit aid. Because my parent, my mom, she had no idea either. She didn't even push me to go to college. I think for her vision, it was for me to go into the workforce right away at age 18. Right, to a grocery store or even learning a trade and becoming a car mechanic. So navigating the whole college thing as a first generation immigrant, poor kid, dude, it sucked. So as a result, I was like, okay, I need to figure out a way where I can make good money, but also it's going to be a stable career field, because even if kids are graduating from college, they might not have a job lined up. I'm serious. If you're watching this video and you graduated from school back in 2008 or 2009, can you confirm with me, like when you graduated, it was tough, right? And even if you did get a job, the employers lowball the hell out of you. So in 2007, if they were paying a new grad, like, I don't know, 60 grand, in 2009, they would have paid you 42 grand. So graduating in 2008, 2009 literally set you back like 5 to 10 years from people that are in your age bracket. It sucked. So naturally, I looked towards the military because I was like, okay, I'm pretty athletic. I have a hard head. I learn stuff quickly. I feel like I'm a natural leader. Why not the military? Because I found out that the military has something called a GI Bill. It literally pays for your school, and it's a guaranteed job. So that's exactly what I did. And upon further research, at the time I was going to go into the Marine Corps, which, you know, as a young male, it's like, hoorah, yeah, let's do something tough, testosterone, ooga, ooga, right? But as I came to my senses and I did more research, and back in the day, doing research, you literally had to go to a library and pick up one of those fat books to explore and look into anything about schools or academia or whatever you're trying to look into. It was a different time. I remember there was a search engine called Ask Jeeves and stuff like that, but it was not very efficient. But anyways, I looked into the military, and then I found out there were military academies and military colleges, meaning you essentially get to go to school for free as long as you serve, which means that's a 2 birds in 1 stone for me. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to pay for college, but also when I graduate, I'm going to have a pretty good job lined up for me. Being a military officer, I feel like is one of the fastest doors you can open in order to enter into the middle class in the US, especially if you don't come from a background of wealth. Becoming a military officer, dude, even now, I still align with that vision. Like becoming a military officer, not a bad deal. So I ended up going to a military college, and let me tell you, do you remember how earlier I was saying I never studied or put effort in to school, yet I crushed? I learned my lesson the hard way that you can't do that in college, because I remember my freshman year, I nearly flunked out. I was almost failing every single class that I was taking, not only because of the rigorous schedule and workload of a military college, but also because I didn't know how to study for exams. And I think for me, that was a wake-up call where I couldn't just rely on talent or brain power alone. You also had to put in the hard work, dedication in order to make those two combine into you becoming the best college student that you can be. So at age 18, I realized the assignment, which was I'm here to be a college student. Later on, I'll be a military officer, but right now it's to be a college student. So I crushed. Once I learned how to study and how to actually learn and digest information that the professors were trying to teach, I absolutely crushed. So I went from having like dude, it's so embarrassing to admit, I think it was like a 1.4. Maybe like 1.6 or something. It was a GPA that was so low that I was on the verge of being kicked out. And I went from that low of a GPA to graduating with a 3.7. Nearly at the top of my class with honors. And as a result, I was able to graduate. And off I went into becoming a second lieutenant. And I was an infantry officer. And back in the day, there was no such thing as females and males being integrated in one combat unit. It was all men. So the climate and environment was very similar to my military college, predominantly male, alpha, testosterone, and it's a very type A line of business. And that was the type of people that I was leading. It was the best of times and the worst of times, to be quite frank. You know, having that privilege at the age of 21, or I guess 22 as well, to lead young men, it's a feeling where when I look back, I'm still proud of. I'm like, damn, that was a really cool experience to go through. But anyways, my military career didn't pan out the way I expected it, because when I was going through Ranger training, I got injured. So automatic setback early on in my career. And then eventually I spiraled down into this pool of depression. I was injured. I'm not who I am supposed to be as a leader, as a Ranger qualified officer. But now I'm also dealing with the demons in my head like, dude, you're such a failure. And eventually the injuries manifested to the point where my career was basically over. And I got out. I got an honorable discharge and I left. I didn't leave the way that I wanted to because I wanted to stay in and do at least like 10 years. Didn't happen. When you get hurt, your country says we don't need you anymore. And that's just the way it is. So I got out and dude, I was so depressed. Because when you think about it, from age like 17 into my mid-20s, that's all my life was about. The military, being an officer, being a leader, trying to become a colonel or general officer. Like that was my ambition, who I was. And to have it all taken away, it was devastating. Especially because of something that was out of my control. You can't help getting hurt. You can't help getting depressed. And I remember at the time I was going through a lot of dark thoughts of just not wanting to be here anymore. Because I didn't even know what I was going to do. Who am I anymore? Right? It was a pretty devastating and pivotal moment in my life. I think I learned a lot about who I am through going through those dark times. And as I'm talking about my past experience, I'm just thinking about it, and I'm glad that I didn't take my own life because so much happened since that dark period to now where I am. I live in Japan, and so much has happened, so much life, so much joy, so much new discoveries, and I even met my wife, and I'm not even the same guy that I was back then, right? Because back then, do you hear my voice right now? This is authentic. This is what my voice really sounds like. Back when I was an infantry officer, I felt like I needed to fit a certain mold in order to play the part, in order to be respected by people. So I would talk like this. All right, guys, here's the plan of the day. First, blah, 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 blah. I intentionally made my voice deeper, and I was always faking to be someone that I was not. So I think as terrible as it was to go through all of that experience, I think I feel grateful because it taught me a valuable lesson that I still use today, which is just to be yourself. You don't have to pretend to be someone in order to fit into a community or an organization. Because if you spend 8 to 12 hours a day trying to pretend to be someone that you're not, it's really not a way to live your life. And I can tell you because even as I was trying to fake it till I make it by becoming in my head, trying to play out the role, I was acting out the role of an alpha male to be that type A infantry officer. When everything came shattering down, I literally lost sight of who I was because I became so blended into that identity, something that I was not. But anyways, eventually, I went back to the drawing board and I was like, okay, at the end of the day, was the military thing what you truly wanted to do, or was it out of desperation and out of your circumstances that led to that path? And once I started, thinking about those questions, I was like, if in a perfect world, I would have just gone off to Hollywood, moved to California, and, become an actor. I would have taken acting classes and just do what I wanted, but I didn't have the money. I literally had no money to my name. So I had to do the whole military thing. So that's when I decided, okay, let's stop playing it safe and doing a path that you don't even want to do. And instead, why don't you just go do what you truly want to do? Why don't you go chase your darn dream? So after I was feeling all down and sad about myself, I used that opportunity to move. No, I didn't just go to California. Instead, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to Korea. So I packed up my bags. I didn't know anyone in Korea. I didn't have a game plan. I just knew that I was going to become big and famous in Korea. And that's what I did. I pursued acting in Korea. Fortunately, I shook the hands of all the right people and it opened the doors for me in the industry. And I did all sorts of random crap there as I was training and learning the craft. In Korea, when you're trying to debut in the entertainment field, it's not as easy as the US, where if you're just good looking or if you have the talent, like bam. In Korea, you have to go through different classes and lessons in order to make sure that you're polished. That way, when you debut in a movie or a TV show, your skeletons in your closet are not going to haunt you. That way, when you get interviewed by a reporter, you know exactly how to talk to them. But also because the Korean way of doing things, they tend to be perfectionists. If you're going to become an actor, you better be a damn good actor. Like, that's the mindset of all the talent agencies out in Seoul. So anyways, while I was in Korea and I was waiting for my turn to debut, I was a skincare model. I'm not joking. My face literally was utilized as a palette for makeup brands, skincare brands, lotions, and I was also an actor in some music videos and commercials. And it's really funny to recollect on this experience. I was also an MC for over a dozen K-pop concerts. So I was the guy that would hype up the crowd and then to introduce the artists, and it was a really crazy time. It was fun. So I went from being this broken, injured, sad, miserable, depressed military veteran to now becoming the center of the spotlight and attention and in a new world where I could just be myself. But I failed. Things did not work out. As I was waiting for my debut, the contract stuff didn't work out. And not only that, my manager at the time stole my money, and it was a mess of a situation. I guess I was too naive, and I just trusted people way too easily, and I was taken advantage of. So I was not able to properly debut in Korea. And I think what makes failing in Korea as an entertainer that much more painful is I literally got to taste a little bit of what it was going to be like once I was a debuted actor slash model, like official. Because I had to do this stuff, kind of under the table of kind of like, there he is, but I wasn't really promoted, if that makes sense. And what also makes it painful is my colleagues and people in the industry were always hyping me up. They were like, dude, you're going to become the next big star in Korea. And at the time, I believed it. I genuinely looked the part. I was what the Korean people, I guess back in the mid 2010s, what they liked. What you see on your screen right now is what I look like as I was embarking upon this dream to become a star in Korea. Like, that's what I look like. Is it any surprise that the Koreans absolutely loved me? I mean, look at that quote. What a handsome boy. Now I know. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm a has-been. I'm ugly. But back then, I got to look at myself and be like, okay, he's kind of cute. He's not that bad. If you are paying attention and keeping track, then you would understand that in the span of like 5 years or so in my adulthood, I failed twice. So consequently, I fell into a deeper hole of depression. I feel like I never truly healed from the first bout. I just had a Band-Aid put on as I was grinding in Korea to become the next star, and I never truly healed the pain, right? And then once I realized I was never going to become a star in Korea, dude, that I was in a really dark place. I was negative. I was miserable. The way that I viewed the world, my thoughts, my actions, it was so bad. I just started self-hating because I had to swallow the fact that every endeavor that I pursue, I just can't attain. And I keep failing. And it gets worse. It doesn't stop right there. So I tasted a little bit of success, but ultimately I always failed, which I think is a perfect time for us to talk about, what was I like as a young adult? Because at the end of the day, this is Dividend Compounders with Cheese. It's a YouTube channel that's dedicated to the stock market, investing, retirement, and stuff like that, right? So how does this all tie in? So what was I like as an adult? Because that was the career ambitions and endeavors, and I failed. But as an adult, when it comes to finances, I was quite literally the definition of a guy that put cash under the pillow. I understood that there was a stock market. I had no idea how or who could even invest into it, and I didn't even care how to do it. And this is really embarrassing to say, but even in my 20s, I didn't even have a credit card. And that's because at the time, I think I was a really big follower of Dave Ramsey, where he talks about how you should keep your debt really low, don't have any credit cards, and I followed that to the T. And I think my relationship with money makes a ton of sense because financial literacy and knowledge was not really a thing in my family. We paid cash for everything that we bought, and nobody even talked about a 401k plan or stocks or investing for retirement. We don't know how to do those things, which, by the way, I'm basically my mom's retirement plan. She's up there in age now, and it's up to me to make sure she can live in dignity, in her final decade or two. And it's a lot of pressure because I don't even make that much money, but we'll get into that later. And I think it's weird because even though my family never really talked about it, even as an adult, I still could have ventured into it and learned about it, right? But I didn't. And I think it's because my risk tolerance was really, really low. I had no desire to play and to lose money. Whatever I had to hold on to it. That mindset of growing up, that scarcity idea of like, I don't know when the next time I'm going to be able to eat or the next time I'm going to have $20 to my name. So I just need to hold on to what I have in cash. The idea of credit cards and the stock market, it scared me. But outside of finances, I think it's interesting because even though I was dealing with depression, I was still a super silly guy, always making jokes, and I had a sense of humor, which is kind of weird because I always thought of depression as one of those things where it just voids you and robs you of any light in life. But even though I was upset and sad half the time, especially at night when I used to think my own thoughts, during the day when people interacted with me, they had no idea I was depressed because I was too busy making them laugh. So I guess to wrap it up of who I was as an adult, financially I was super conservative, but in terms of like pursuing your passions and goals, I was really ballsy. I guess it's funny how life works because that balanced things out. Financially conservative, but in terms of ambitions and goals, I always reached for the stars. After that whole playing it safe path to the military, after that I was like, okay, I gotta do what I gotta do in life. With that out of the way, let's get back to the story. So Korea, things didn't work out. Now I gotta go back to the US. And that's when I decided to fall back on my brains. Thank the good Lord that I wasn't just all beauty and no IQ. There's a light bulb up here. So as I was trying to figure out what to do with my life as a guy that failed in his 2 previous attempts at a career, what am I gonna do? So I decided why not get an MBA? Because in the US, it was kind of like me gravitating back towards the conservative and safe path. You'll see how it goes from like take risks, play it safe, take risks, play it safe. But anyways, in the US, pursuing your MBA full-time at a top-ranked program is basically a guaranteed recipe to succeed. A 6-figure salary in consulting, investment banking, or a leadership development program, or what have you. That is, of course, unless you're super awkward, your breath smells, or your accent is way too heavy. Otherwise, you're most likely going to succeed and land at a very good paying job and company. Unfortunately for me, somehow I ended up in corporate America at 2 different Fortune 20 companies. When I look back on that whole experience of being in middle management at corporate America companies, when I think about all of my colleagues, I would argue most of them were private school educated and came from a background of wealth. I was literally the only guy in any meeting room or discussion table, a guy who came from poverty. So it was always a weird thing, but in being in corporate America and having a 6-figure salary, I thought I was going to be happy. But that couldn't be further from the truth because there I was again, playing it safe and going on the road of quiet desperation, settling for less, knowing that I have the potential to do something else and other desires in my heart, but just doing what route I felt like was the most responsible. And it is. I'm not going to argue that it's not. It is. But that's why I always felt like I have a curse. Because when I think about my MBA classmates, they can put their head down and work a job that they absolutely dread and hate, but be happy because they still make 6 figures, right? But then there was also me, a guy that would rather be in the entertainment field or in the arts or in front of a camera, but going to work in a suit and tie and playing a role, trying to be someone that I'm not, And when I got that 6 figures, I wasn't happy. I was like, dude, I'm so miserable. What am I doing? Because even though I ended up with a coveted title, prestige from a really good MBA degree, and security from poverty, the YouTube memories and how fun it was from my childhood, it kept haunting me. Even though I was at work, on a random ass, Tuesday morning meeting, I would still think about, dude, I remember the good times of YouTube. So much freedom, so much flexibility, and you could just be yourself in front of the camera. It's the one thing that I did in life where I was just able to be me. I didn't have to pretend to be, someone else or a corporate guy. Gosh, I hated pretending to be a corporate guy. It sucked. I can play the part. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the vice president that used to mentor me, I was literally on the path to becoming a senior director, and they saw so much potential in me. I could play the darn role of a corporate guy, but it's just not what I wanted to do. It's not who I wanted to be. Because with YouTube, I didn't have to be a corporate guy. I didn't have to be an officer. I didn't have to pretend to be someone that I'm not. With YouTube, I could just be who I am in front of the camera or an audience and build, a connection with the viewers. Like that trust, like for me, that's my comfort zone and what I desire and what I love to do. Like, sure, when I think about the corporate compensation and the financial security, that's fine and dandy. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was amazing. The paychecks to roll in every 2 weeks, it's pretty solid. But I realized that, nobody lives forever. Even you or me, we could literally, on the way home from work, get into a car accident and then become a vegetable or go into a coma or die. Or you could feel healthy today, and over the weekend, you could be diagnosed with terminal illness. Life is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not a sure bet. You might think that you're going to be able to wake up tomorrow, but there's a ton of people around the world who die in their sleep for no apparent reason all the time. Life is just here today, and it could be gone tomorrow. And that's when I realized that I was living a life full of just waiting for the weekend to come and then to just waste my time at a job that I don't even care about. I was literally living for the weekends. And even then, was I truly having a weekend? No, I was not. And that's when I realized I can't be doing this anymore. And I'm not saying that, I was diagnosed with a disease or anything. No, it's not. It's just, I realized I need to stop playing games and just go do what I need to do. So I went all out. I decided none of this, 1 foot in and 1 foot out business with daydreaming about YouTube. Instead, just do it. Just do it. And as my partner picked up a job that allowed us to relocate to Japan, that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to bet on myself. And not only am I going to bet on myself, I'm going to choose to believe in myself. And that's basically how Dividend Compounders with Cheese came to be. With the assistance from my wife, I literally came up with the name at a ramen shop while we were eating dinner together here in Japan. I think there was like 20 other names I was contemplating, like Dividend Dog, or even like Dividend Compounders with Fries. But eventually I decided the cheese aspect just has a nice ring to it. It's silky smooth. And so that's how we ended up here. Why you're watching this video right now. Why I decided to make over, I don't know, is it 170 videos in the span of like 15 or 16 months? That's what happened. And the tone of the video is about to get a lot more serious. I know this is not my usual self of being silly and cracking jokes because, I don't know, as I was thinking about this video, it kind of made me get into a very mellow mood. Because I thought about like, damn, dude, my life kind of sucked, but it also was amazing and remarkable in one aspect because I got to experience and do so much. Like, do you know what it's like to be up on a stage with 20,000 people screaming their heads off? That type of adrenaline? Yeah. But anyways, I failed at so many things in life, so many endeavors, and YouTube is different. When it comes to YouTube or any entrepreneurial endeavor, if you are a business owner, you probably can resonate with what I'm about to say right now. Effort matters. With YouTube, consistency pays off. Just like Dividend Compounders, right? And I think that's a silly way for me to tie it all together. And with YouTube, I just refuse to fail. Yes, with my other endeavors, I failed and it was out of my control. But with YouTube, I feel like it's in my control. It's how much effort I put out is how much I gain back. I mean, obviously, we're not going to build a community of like 1 million subscribers overnight, but I'm telling you, with each upload, this Dividend gang that we have, what are we at right now? Like 6,000 subscribers? We're gaining momentum. It's one video, one step at a time. We're making it happen. And I think that picture that I just painted, a perfect time for me to also say, in most things in life, you don't have to be special or be super talented. You just have to believe in yourself. Show up and do the work that's necessary, regardless of what your feelings are telling you. If I only made videos and edited or filmed when I felt like it, I would only pump out 1 video a week. You gotta turn off those feelings and emotions, not only in terms of your craft, but also with the stock market. Because if you allow FOMO and negative emotions to cloud your judgment, you're gonna make a stupid decision. But all that to say, sure, sometimes unexpected setbacks happen, right? Like my failures or your failures. I'm sure I'm not alone in this unique experience. Everyone has dealt with failure in some aspect or shape or another in life. There's illnesses, there's even macro environment events that happen. But this is a huge but. Whatever endeavor we're talking about, if you give it your all, your best effort, you're going to be successful. Maybe not the best to ever do it. Like if you're trying to become a UFC fighter, you might not become a Conor McGregor, but you might be the best in your capacity, in your timeline, and in your lifetime. And at the very least, you'll be above average with hard work alone. And in life, when it comes to careers, there's 2 schools of thought, right? There's people that see a job as a means of money so that it can fund your lifestyle, so that you can do whatever you want in your time off from work or on the weekends. And then there's other people that are kind of like me, where unfortunately, you need to align your job with your purpose and passion and how you spend your 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week through your craft and your output. That's who I am. And that's why as I am taking this gamble and this calculated risk on Dividend Compounders with Cheese, every single day that I pour in work and effort and dedication to doing this, dude, I'm happy. I'm so freaking happy, you have no idea. Okay, so how is dividend growth investing tied into all of this? Like, why did you decide to do Dividend Compounders with Cheese instead of just being a normal YouTuber? Okay, so let's back it up. You ever run into one of those teachers growing up that has a ton of influence on you? The ones that actually care about your well-being and development. I think the worst type of teachers are the ones who are just there to get a paycheck and just vomit out the curriculum and then they just go home. They don't care whether or not you understand the material. And I feel like for the most part, I had a lot of those teachers growing up, which for me, I didn't really care. School was so easy. But anyways, for me, the teacher that really cared about our development and wanted to see the best for us in the future, her name was Miss Woody. And I actually very grateful for her because she was kind of like another parent. And in terms of she was teaching me stuff that I wasn't learning back at home. And her official title, I think she was like a marketing and business teacher. So it was like an elective that you could take in high school. And from her, one of the assigned readings and books that we had to do was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that book, I'm telling you, as a young teenager, it was game changing. And I think for a lot of people, if you're anything like me in my young adult years where you're a cash only type of person scared of the stock market, I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a good read for you as well. But anyways, that book, if I can sum it up, it's learning about the concept and idea of having money work for you. So it's weird for me to say that that book lit a fire in me because it taught me valuable lessons such as real estate investing or having your money do the heavy lifting. So because of that book and Miss Woody, I literally thought that was the path that I was going to eventually go on. So for like the next 5 to 6 years, I ordered almost every single book on Amazon on the topic of real estate investing. That was back in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, so forth. Because I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to buy these houses, flip them, and rent it back out to tenants or just sell it, get it off of my portfolio. That's the path that I was going to do. And then once I started to realize, dude, you actually need a lot of money up front in order to qualify for a loan. There's high barriers, there's high risk. After doing some research and my homework, I found out there's nightmare tenants that will literally just piss and poop all over the carpet, damage all of the walls, and, intentionally, grow mold on the walls. And I kept thinking, dude, is that passive though? Is that really having your money work for you? Because if you have to deal with all of that, through the help of a property manager and attorneys, I feel like that's a lot of a headache, right? So even after I spent a ton of time learning about the trade and real estate investing, I never pulled the trigger. And then after that, I was like, passive income, it's a good idea in theory, but it's just not for me. Life got busy and I just wasn't interested in trying to achieve, passive income. Then, during my MBA education, I learned all about the stock market, right? The ins and outs of day trading, financial modeling, reading 10Ks, accounting, options, puts, calls, whatever. I started learning about it and I was like, wait, this literally sounds like and looks like passive income. Because within the stock market, there's a strategy called dividend growth investing. And to me, it made so much sense. Out of all the strategies that are out there, the things that you can do, speculative day trading, reading candle lights and doing a technical analysis and doing all sorts of other stuff, for me, dividend growth investing, it resonated with me because the best part is you don't need thousands of dollars or be a millionaire in order to get started. Anybody can do dividend growth investing. I would argue even $20 is enough to buy a share of a decent company. Ideally, you want to spend at least $100. That way you can get the compound effect rolling in the right direction. But even with $20, you could still buy a fractional share of Google or Apple or Microsoft. And I'm not going to lie to you. As I was learning about the stock market in my classes, at first, I was seduced by high dividend yield payers. The ones with like a 25% dividend yield, because I didn't understand that there were fundamentals that you also need to look at in order to ensure that you're looking at the business behind the stock. Are their fundamentals good? Their financials? Do they have an economic moat? Is the dividend sustainable? Is it going to be growing? Instead of all of that, I only looked at the surface level numbers. And I think that's why I always emphasize that you need to look beyond the numbers to figure out, is this a good investment or not? Needless to say, I learned fast and the hard way that those types of dividend stocks, with the 150% payout ratio, their stock appreciation is in the red in the past 10 years. I learned the hard way that those are value traps. Terrible stocks. I can't even call them investments because an investment is something that will grow for you eventually and work for you. But I call those stocks because you're just going to lose your money. So after I lost like a couple $100, for me, I was like, okay, whatever. That's just my tuition to the school of the stock market so I can learn the hard way. Just like I put the same dedication and effort, towards trying to learn everything that I could about the real estate market, I did the same with the stock market. So I started reading every single book written by Warren Buffett or on the topic of Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, and all of the other Wall Street legends. And I started to digest all of the lessons that they taught, which led me on the path of dividend growth investing. Because when it comes down to it, a dividend paying company usually, for the most part, I think 94% of them have the correct fundamentals in order to pay out the extra cash flow to you, the shareholder. So that dividend shows you right off the bat, I think 96% of the time, or 94%, that this is a solid company. I think the other 4 or 6%, terrible. They should not be paying a dividend in the first place. And I think I really like dividend investing because when you think about it, it's truly passive income. Okay, sure, you got to put in the time up front to find and to, read through the financial documents and to analyze the stock up front, all of that energy and effort. But after that, it's passive income. They're just going to be paying you a dividend every quarter or every month. And through time in the market, you're also going to be growing your capital through their stock price appreciation. And for me, that's why I'm saying like dividend investing makes so much sense. And the cool thing about dividend investing is that you could also own real estate investments, aka REITs, without having to deal with any nightmare tenants. For me personally, I own Realty Income Corporation, which is a commercial real estate business. But don't get me wrong, because of my age, I apply a hybrid approach, right? In one sense, because of my low risk profile, I try not to touch or go near speculative companies. I would say like 80% of my portfolio is allocated towards, dividend paying, stable, mature, value investing style of companies. But in the other 20%, because I'm under the age of 60, this is why I also know that if you really want to grow your money, you got to invest into growth companies. So in the other 20%, I invest into companies that are growing in all of their financials and fundamentals by double-digit numbers year over year. Companies that do not pay a dividend. And that's why I kept thinking, maybe I need to start a second channel. And between you and me, if you're still watching this video, I love you, by the way. If you're still watching this, I started drawing out the strategy, the name, what we're going to talk about on the second channel. And that's why I'm like, maybe I need to open up a second channel where we talk more about stocks such as AMD. And then on this channel, I continue to talk about, dividend compounders, dividend paying businesses, because that's where like 80% of my energy and my attention is towards. But I feel like if I talk about AMD on this channel, it's not really appropriate. Does that make sense? And that's why I apply a hybrid approach, because I understand there's no truly one good or perfect investment strategy and philosophy. That's why I feel like there's a good in almost every strategy. Yes, even those speculative day traders, there's some good in there, but although I would never touch it because that's gambling, you're literally not investing, that's gambling because you don't know if it's going to go up or down. But all that to say, if you are watching this video, can you give me feedback? Do you think that's a good idea if I were to open up a second channel that only talks about growth companies? Or do you think I would just be taking away focus and attention that I'm doing for this channel? I guess I would consider it the main channel. So I guess I titled this slide, Privileged but Not Financially. And I think what I wanted to talk about is how I'm able to do YouTube full time because of my partner's support and my minimum wage part-time job, which by the way, because this channel is finally starting to grow, I have been allocating more of my time for this channel rather than the part-time job. So pretty stoked about that. And yes, it is a humbling experience to go from managing a team of like 10 people in a corporate meeting room, 6 figures, down to making less than $15 an hour. It is one of those things that sucks, but I know it's just something I need to do for now. The grind. I call this season the grind. And I feel blessed because I have someone in my life that truly believes in me. Maybe she's as delusional as I am, but she believes in me and I refuse to let her down. Like I can let myself down and I can live with it and I can grow from it and learn from it, but I can't let her down. She believes in me. So I guess, what am I trying to even say on this slide? I guess I'm not rich by any means, but right now, since I live in Japan and I have been for like the past 3 years, I'm time rich. And that's what matters. I literally have the time to pursue YouTube for almost a majority of my week. By the way, I work every day of the week. I don't take rest days. And when I do, I rest for like 6 hours and then I go back to work. But we are going to make this channel work, this vision and this dream. I'm telling you right now, my journey, if you're hearing this from like a judgmental hat on, you might be like, dude, you're absolutely stupid. But I have to tell you, it is a fulfilling journey. And you're not wrong. I am stupid for doing that. Like I have a high IQ, but poor decision-making skills, right? But I'm just joking. I would do it again 10 out of 10 times. Quit my 6-figure corporate job to do this because for literally the past, I don't know how long we've been doing this, but so happy, so fulfilling. And I'm not joking. So much job satisfaction. Even though it's really hard, right? The struggles and the pains of not having the numbers yet, so happy. And honestly, it's really difficult to say this, but for a majority of my life, dude, I've been a loser for almost 3 decades. Straight up failing all the time, a loser. Sure, on paper, I sound impressive. The pedigree is like, whoa, this guy. But in actuality, if my life was like a movie, dude, so embarrassing. But I finally found something where I can succeed at, and I could cry, tears in my eyes, how happy I am. I found it. YouTube. It gives me a genuine source of joy, fulfillment, purpose, and I feel like I'm good at it. All right, so what's the vision for this channel? I think the goal and vision for Dividend Compounders is to continue pumping out, high quality investing content with a sense of humor. Because I don't know about you, I feel like 95% of the videos that are populated in the stock market topic, it's made by, very boring CPAs and CFAs. I'm sorry to say that. If I hurt your feelings, it's just the way it is, right? And some of them are more boring than the others. And there's the other 5%. Dude, there's some people that are just talking out of their ass with clickbait, right? And I hate it so much. Like, buy now. This is the last chance. Fires everywhere and flames on the thumbnails. And it's just... I'm like, dude, come on. Why is every company and video you upload, this is the last chance to get in, or 5x or 20x? Like, dude, come on. And then, of course, there's like the 0.01% of YouTubers who are not just doing clickbait or sensationalism in their titles that I think are legit. They are out there. And that's why I'm trying to do something different. I'm trying to build a genuine community with like authentic opinions about what's going on in the stock market. And if you're watching this video, then you must be like me, right? You prefer videos that are long form and a little bit slower and that feels like a conversation. I personally do not like the fast-paced TikTok-style videos, right? With like explosions and edits happening every other second. It's just not my cup of tea. And that's why I'm trying to create the content that I would want to watch. And if you're watching this, it's probably what you like to watch as well. So what's next for Dividend Compounders with Cheese? Obviously, I let the secret out that I just started the new project of trying to open up a second channel, but for this channel itself. So once we reach 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to implement a weekly portfolio update series that I'm going to continue on because I'm on this journey of trying to achieve financial independence, retire early, and that's what that series is basically going to be under. But in the series, I'm also going to be talking about the buys and sells and any trades that I do throughout the week. I'm going to be talking about which companies that I am going to sell in the future. Like I'm eyeballing to sell once it reaches XYZ price. And I think going forward, this channel really aligns with having a sense of purpose because if a video gets like 1,000 views and I'm able to inform and educate maybe 3 of them into the beauty of dividend investing and teach them about how to do it and why it's good or X, Y, and Z, then I think I'm doing a good job. Because I really wish someone would have taught me about dividend investing when I was a lot younger. Now, fortunately for me, I found out about it in my late 20s. And for some of you, it might have been in your 30s or 40s or 50s. It's better sooner than later. But the earlier you find out about dividend investing, the faster you can start compounding your wealth. And on that topic, it would mean a lot to me if you were to check out my Patreon and even consider becoming a part of the Patreon. And if you want to see a video of me begging on my knees and you're not convinced yet, watch that video and I will explain to you why being a Patreon will be worth it for you. And after hearing all of this, if you are a reasonable person or if you're logical, you might be thinking to yourself like, why didn't you just stay at your corporate job and then just make your little silly YouTube videos that you seem to have so much passion and purpose for, once or twice a month? Why not? And to be honest, I can't even be annoyed or be irritated by that because that's fair. That's an honest take. And to that I say, when you work 60 hours a week doing something that you have no passion for and you're just going there for the paycheck, it's just, I don't know about you, but it left me absolutely drained. And believe me when I say that there was no room for side projects. With how much time they needed me in and out of the office, even if I was off work, my phone, I was always on call. So whatever time I had left over, I was using to recover. That way I wouldn't work myself into the ground, or I had to be a human and run errands, right? Grocery shopping, and that way I can have food for the rest of the week. And there was just no time. I try to do it, but dude, burning an entire weekend to make a YouTube video is just, it's not feasible. Because if I want to keep my corporate job, it's not going to be good for me because my performance is going to be impacted, right? Because if I don't recover on my days off, quote unquote days off, my recovery, then when I go back to work and I'm going in a burned out state, dude, it would be a lot worse. So not only would I hate my work, but I would go into it feeling absolutely exhausted as well. When you are stuck in a job that you absolutely hate, the mental and emotional soul sucking that happens is a suffocating experience. And it's a feeling that even when I say it, you won't even understand unless you've experienced it before. If you've been through it, then you're like, yeah, I know what that's like. And as I say that, you might be like, dude, you're such a whiner. But if you've been through it before, you know what I'm talking about. Which on a side note, I think it's a perfect time for me to confess that I had this shower thought the other day, nowhere near being the man that I thought I was going to be in my mid-30s, right? The rest of my peers that I went to school with or in my community or my circle of friends, dude, practically half of them are millionaires. Their net worth shadows over me. They have the prestigious titles, and me, dude, I'm just a YouTuber. My net worth is tiny. I barely make any money. I don't even own a house. I don't have any kids. When I upload a video, I barely get like 5 comments. And I feel like such a letdown. But then I have to answer that question. To who? Who are you letting down? Who are you disappointing? See, it only happens when I compare myself to other people, right? And I think it's interesting because I think if you are a man, I think every single one of us has experienced this. Life humbles you. You quickly learn to appreciate and be grateful for the small things because you realize like life hits you hard. And also because when you compare yourself to other people and their progress, that negative talk just amplifies that you're not enough, right? Especially if I compare myself to other people. But in my own race, in my own journey, in my own book of life, I think I'm doing okay. See, when I was younger, I wish someone would have told me that, to just be patient. You don't have to be sprinting towards everything and anything. Whatever you embark upon, you need to think about it like it's a marathon. Because everyone moves at their own pace and it's a long distance run. Not everyone that you meet is going to be an overnight success or become a millionaire by age 30. That's far from the truth. And if you keep setting yourself to that standard saying that is make or break, then what happens if you don't achieve that milestone or, quote unquote dream that you place into your heart? Then are you a failure, an utter disappointment, right? When we talk like that, those extremes, it just sets you up to be disappointed and depressed. All that to say, between you and me, my journey is not over. I'm literally just getting started. And maybe, I know this sounds crazy, I think the best chapters are yet to come in my book of life. Yes, the book has been pretty interesting, had a lot of setbacks and obstacles, but I think the best parts, they're yet to come. And most importantly, this is crucial. Unlike when I was a military officer or when I was working in corporate, right now, making YouTube videos, I'm happy. I know I said it earlier, but genuinely, I had to think about it before making this video, like, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And the answer to that is yes, because I'm doing work that aligns with my passion. And so the work that I'm doing every single day, I enjoy doing it. That was a lie. I hate editing. Editing takes up 90% of my time and I don't like it, but I know it's something that I have to do in order to get the video up. And besides, there's no such thing as a career or a job out there where you love 100% of every responsibility and attribute that goes into it. I think we all have a pain point and one aspect that we don't like about the particular, work, such as it might be a long commute. It might be your boss or coworkers. It might be the dress code, whatever it is. There's something that's kind of like a pimple on the middle of your forehead. Again, you can call me delusional, and sure, the numbers are not there and the views are not popping off. I barely get 1,000 views, but one day, I'm calling it right now. If I just continue to pump out good content that I would watch, I think the numbers are going to follow eventually. And I'm crazy enough to believe in that. So as you can see, I lived the lives of 5 different men. And I also didn't have enough time, riddle me that. And now a video that's like 2 hours or something, I didn't have enough time. But somewhere in that timeline, I was also a pastor. Yes, a pastor, a teacher, and a karaoke hero. Funny enough, I also auditioned for some big shows here in the US. I was trying to make it as an Asian actor. Ultimately, didn't make the final call. I made it to all the way, the very end, and I just didn't make the callback list. The purpose of this video, if anything, I hope you can see from my life story video that it's filled with hardships and setbacks and obstacles and failures, but the most important quality about me is that I'm like a cockroach. You can't get rid of me. I never gave up. Even if I failed, yes, I would sit and cry a bit or be upset, but eventually I would get back up and pursue something else. I would adapt, I would overcome, and go towards a new endeavor. All that to say, if you are watching this and thinking of giving up on your own dream, please do not. Whatever your version of dividend compounders is, just go all in. This is your sign. I don't think anyone else is gonna encourage you, so I'm gonna do it. The best things in life come from compounding effort, that consistency, showing up every single day. Not overnight success or get rich quick schemes, but putting in that work day in and day out. No matter how rough it gets or how little progress you're seeing, just staying consistent and making good adaptable changes. If your method is not working, sometimes you got to change it up a little bit and do things differently. Otherwise, you're going to get the same results. And my final words that I want to leave you with is, if I die tomorrow, I can genuinely die happy. And I think as a man living in 2025, that's a pretty deep, profound statement to make. Because I know a lot of us are living lives of quiet desperation. And I say that because if I die right now, as a man, I would have died pursuing my passion and living a life that I could be happy with. So, with that said, I love you guys, stay safe, and who knows, in the future, maybe this might be it. Since I did the face reveal, maybe I'll continue to show my face in future uploads. Anyways, I'll talk to you next time. Peace.